On a previous episode of the Databits channel, we looked at the Commpak 16mm cartridge multimedia playback system that was playable in the Belle Projector systems, and I showed you two examples of those players. This cartridge combines an 8-track tape that is melded together with a 16mm film cartridge, all in one, and gives you visual as well as audio with it. On the tape itself is a soundtrack as well as tones that are inaudible. They're on a separate track that tells the machine when to advance to the next slide. Now the film doesn't play continuously. It just plays one picture at a time in sync with the audio program, which means for a very, very small amount of film required for, say, a 10-minute program. So I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could make my own Commpak cartridge with something besides the material that I received with my unit? So then I looked online and I discovered that there was a piece of equipment made for children, a toy called the Show and Tell Picture Sound Player that used records as well as a strip of film, 16mm, enclosed into a little cartridge or plastic strip that you would insert into the machine. These were easy to pick up, easy to find, and General Electric and Gabriel both made these back in the 70s and 80s. And there was a ton of titles for these, and really was able to pick them up rather economically. So what comes with this particular package? Well, you get a little booklet, little folder here, and inside is the record and the plastic cartridge that contains a 16mm strip of film. So here's an example of one. I'll give you a close-up. So the film is literally just kind of sat inside there. It's kind of barely welded in place by melting a bunch of little white tabs. Kind of holds it in place. So it's easy to just grab a hold of the film strip and pull it right out. So that's what I was able to do. Now, of course, this is really short, so I would need to put several of them together. So that's what I did. So I picked 3 of these particular stories, and I spliced the films together. So I peeled these out and spliced the films. Then you've got to, so that takes care of the visual. But then you've got to figure out a way to get the audio from the record onto one of these 8-track tapes, and you have to insert an inaudible signal. Now, if you're playing it back on equipment besides the Belle system, you'll hear those audible programs or tones. So the idea, take these 2 pieces and put them into here. And I think I've accomplished my goal, and I'm going to show that to you. Plus, I'm going to show you the steps that were involved to put it all together. It was kind of a pain, but maybe the end result will be kind of fun. All right. So the first step, take this audio record here and put it onto a cassette. So what I did is I recorded the audio from a record to a cassette tape, and that was one step. The second step was to take apart one of the Belle Commpak cartridges and remove the 8-track reel of tape from the inside and put it into a standard 8-track tape. And the reason I wanted to do that was I needed to be able to play back the audio with both channels, and I did so on my TIAC A150 or A1250 reel-to-reel deck. So what it did is it gave me the audio program on the left channel, and it gave me the tones that it generates on the right channel. I was then able to connect the right channel of my reel-to-reel deck up to a sampling keyboard and record the tones. There's 2 tones onto the tape. One of the tones is a high-pitched tone, and that actually advances the slides for you. The second tone tells the equipment to turn off or pause and wait for you to start it up again. So it actually pauses the playback of the tape. So the next thing to do was to create my own soundtrack. So using the cassette tape and using the tones that I generated with my keyboard, I wanted to hook them up to something and record them together, rehearse the material, and do it synchronized. So I decided to use mini disc as my recording method. So again, I chose 3 records for my soundtrack and recorded those 3 records onto this cassette tape. One of my favorites, the XL2 Position High recordable blank cassette. Then I put this blank cassette into my little Sony Walkman cassette player here, and then connect the Sony cassette player up to this Sony mini disc recorder. It is a Sony MZN510, and I got my blank disc inside to record that. So again, I'm connecting an audio cable, a stereo audio cable, into the mini disc. On the other end of it is two RCA jacks, one of them connected to the cassette Walkman, the other one connected to this realistic ConcertMate 650 sampling keyboard. Before I got to this point, I hooked this sampling keyboard up to my reel-to-reel deck and put the tape from one of these on the reel-to-reel, played it, and was able to record the tones that I needed to transfer into my new soundtrack. So I'll turn this on here so you can hear what those tones sound like. The first tone that advances the slides, and I call them slides, but they're actually 16 millimeter film. You know, just think of it as a PowerPoint slide off 16 millimeter film. The first sound is this sound, so that advances the slide. The second tone is this one, and that one tells the machine to stop and wait for you to start it up again. So for the tape to start, you actually have to hit the start button here, which hits a relay and causes the tape to start moving. And then when it stops and pauses, then you have to go up and hit the start button again. So all I had to do was turn on my projector, look up on the wall, play the cassette tape, listen to the soundtrack, and then as I thought the slides should be advanced, go ahead and hit this button, which is recorded onto the mini disc as the right channel, the left channel being this cassette soundtrack. So I had to go through all of my slides and do this in a rehearsed fashion. Now, unfortunately, the way that Gabriel and General Electric put the slides or the film strips into those cartridges, they put them in upside down. So I could put it in my machine here and make it right side up, but then they're in the wrong order of the way the story is set up. So in order for them to be in the right order of the story, I had to load these in there upside down. So all of my film strip slides are upside down. So when I play it back for you as we demonstrate all this insane steps involved in doing this, I'll show it to you with my iPhone flipped upside down so you can see that it actually looks right. So this is what it was like to take the soundtrack or the tones off of this original Commpak 8-track tape, as I have them hooked up to my reel-to-reel like this, which you can see there. So you take the supply side of the tape, run it across the heads, up and around the capstan and pinch roller and this other guide right up here, and then spools back down and goes to the take-up side. So what I'm about to do is take my soundtrack that I created on mini disc with the correct left and right channel configuration and re-record it back onto the tape. Now you're probably wondering why I didn't just use an 8-track recorder, and that's a good question. And the answer is because I don't have an 8-track recorder right now. The ones I did have I've sold, so I didn't think I'd ever need one again. But in any case, the reel-to-reel works just fine because the track configuration is actually a perfect match for the way it was done on the Commpak. 3 3/4 inches per second or low speed on this particular deck, and I'll show you what it's like to play back the original material on this machine from the 8-track tape.
Because I would assume that possibly the church where we are working together is a typical church, and you know, on Tuesdays we announce every Sunday morning and Sunday evening we're going to have visitation. And so it seems like that, you know, we just have the same group out every week and we're really not reaching out into the community.
All right, so you can see what that sounds like. It's got a nice, rich, full tone, high fidelity sound to it. All right, so now we're going to attempt to put these programs on here. There's, again, 3 of them, and I'm going to record them onto this 8-track tape. So I'm going to do that while I pause the camera. All right, I have my recording made, and I have sealed the 8-track tape back inside the cartridge. So I've done the recording on my reel-to-reel, and I've inserted it, and I wanted you to see how I spliced these film strips together. So these are the film strips that, of course, over the years have aged and kind of yellowed and faded somewhat. And you can see the splice tapes right here. So I actually used real 16 millimeter splice tapes to splice these three programs together. And I probably won't do all three programs to show you for demonstration because they're kind of long, but I'll show you a couple of them. So you can see the see Mickey Mouse there on that particular part of the strip. And once we seal this up, we will be ready to go and watch our program as it has been magically transported from record to 8-track cartridge. And of course, we're not using all 8 tracks. We're actually only using 2 of those tracks. This is the part of the video where I demonstrate the final product, but I'm taking it out of part 1 of this video because of YouTube's copyright claim. So you can look for the actual product displayed in part 2 of this video. And this concludes our story of how we were able to take film strips and records and translate them into Commpak cartridges, played of course on the Belle Tudor 16 projector. You can see more of the Tudor 16 projector, including a movie trailer I created for this particular machine, on my channel if you happen to be interested. And of course, I recommend that you subscribe to this channel because I'll bring you more rare and bizarre gadgetry like you're seeing here as I find it. Thank you for watching. Share with a friend, subscribe, and leave a comment below. And do it in a hurry because it might snow. Okay, that was weird. Bye.